The NBA, the National Basketball Association, where amazing happens. Am I the only one that misses those commercials? Anyways, the NBA is known for many things. Amazing moments, high-flying dunks, prowess of skill and agility, and most importantly, parity. Wait, what? What do you mean there's no parity in the league anymore? Super teams? Well, yeah, but every team is trying to be a super team, so it's fair now. Not really? Oh, thanks for telling me. Yeah, fuck super teams. Me and my niggas hate super teams. But you know one more thing that people seem to love about the NBA? The drama, the controversy, and all the fights that seem to happen, and all the straight up heated moments that happen every once in a while when tempers fly. Except for this moment, I don't know what happened here. But anyways, in this video with your boy, Alvini Linguine, we'll be going over who I think are the menaces of society in this league. The people who create the most nigga moments in the NBA, and make an all-NBA team out of them. Welcome to meet the all-NBA Black AirForce team. I'll explain the qualifications for it later, but before we get into the video, you already know what I have to do. The like goal is the usual 1,000 likes to help support the channel. Subscribe if you are new for interesting basketball content every week for your enjoyment. And finally, follow me on Twitter and Instagram for channel news, and follow me on Twitch for weekly streams. And with all that out of the way, you already know who it is. Roll it!
He incurred an injury dealing with weights in the weight room, so he stitched up in the left hand doing all this.
It's over, ladies and gentlemen.
Now again, before we get into this, let me preface that this list I made is completely opinion based. So if I forget anyone, please forgive me and just put whoever I missed in the comment section below. And let me go on and say that this isn't an all-time list. This is strictly just people I thought about in today's modern game. So when it comes down to being on the all-NBA Black AirForce team, there are many things to look out for. The amount of technical fouls they racked up over their career, controversies outside of the basketball court, and most importantly, the fighting. You get the gist. So with all that being said, let's meet our honorable mentions for the all-NBA Black AirForce team. First, we have the honorable mention point guard, which is Chris Paul of the Phoenix Suns. To the casual NBA fan, Chris Paul is a person who can do no wrong. He's one of the faces of State Farm, a great father figure, and a very good leader on and off the basketball court. The absolute works. He's even the leader of the NBA Players Union. But what some people don't know is, on the court, Chris Paul can be quite the dickhead at times. He's known to ruin some locker room cultures with many reports talking about his antics. He flops, and I know that isn't totally bad, but Chris Paul has some major flop addiction to get petty fouls, and he has one of the highest technical foul totals in recent NBA history, with 14 in the last year's season, 85 technical fouls over his whole NBA career, 2 NBA ejections, and 1 infamous fight with longtime rival Rajon Rondo. All this equaling up to a total of $700,000 in fines. So if this doesn't convince you that Chris Paul can be a pain to deal with at times, let's hope this entry did it for you. For our next honorable mention, we have the winner of the shooting guard position, Dillon Brooks. Now, people may not understand why he's here just like CP3, but for me, it's for a very petty reason. He fouls. He fouls a lot. Dillon Brooks is for some reason known as one of the best 1v1 defenders and is relied on by the Memphis Grizzlies to be the primary defender for the team. However, he isn't the best at it since he came into the league. He's either averaged 2 or more fouls a game. In the last 2 seasons, he's funny enough owns the 3rd most fouls at 281 in 2019 to 2020 season, and was first place this season at 264 fouls. And ever since he came into the league, he's racked up 24 technical fouls, received an ejection, and has given the NBA $54,000 in fines. Might be a weird reason, but when I see you're the leader in fouls in the NBA, there has to be a reason for it. Next, at the honorable mention spot for the small forward position, we have Josh Jackson, who currently plays for the Detroit Pistons. Now, I'm sure people know the story of Josh, as there are many videos on him, but to talk about why he's on here, he has a few stories outside the basketball court that makes his career very, lack of a better word, interesting. For example, skipping out on a meet and greet when he was on the Suns that he's scheduled for, he was arrested for trying to get in the VIP section at Rolling Loud Music Festival, and getting his own child high off of weed. And I'm pretty sure there's more, but that's all I can find for now. But other than that, he has 30 technical fouls in his 4-year NBA career, an ejection, and got fined for cursing at a fan in his rookie season, all for a lump sum of $111,000 in fines. Next, at the power forward position, we have Serge Ibaka of the Los Angeles Clippers. And let's be real, Serge is a well-known figure in the NBA sphere for his hot-headed attitude when patronized. He has 3 official fights on his record, one for kicking Blake Griffin, another one on Marquise Chris, and the last one on James Johnson. And in his 12-year NBA career, he has 45 technical fouls, 6 ejections, and of course the fights I mentioned earlier. That equals up to $974,000 in fines. And I never would have thought as an NBA player you can almost pay $1 million in fines, but here we are with Serge Ibaka. In our last honorable mention, we have Bobby Portis at the center spot. Just like Serge Ibaka, Bobby is a very intense NBA player, and seeing what he looks like when he gets too hyped, when he's too into the game, I wouldn't want to see him in a dark alleyway at the middle of the night. But to get on the subject, with the new NBA champion Bobby Portis, he is most known as a menace to society for punching Nikola Mirotic during a practice when they were both on the Chicago Bulls and got fined $83,000 for it and was suspended 8 games for it. He also broke 2 bones in Nikola's face, and I can almost guarantee that Nikola is definitely a racist after that altercation. But other than that, he's got a total of 20 technical fouls and 4 ejections, and all the fines equal up to $159,000. But with the honorable mentions all revealed, let's go on to talk about the actual All-NBA Black Air Force second team, and I can go on and tell you now, it gets far worse from this point on. First off, with our second team point guard, we have Russell Westbrook. Now, as a former Russell Westbrook fan, I'll go on to preface this now by saying I never knew how many technical fouls Russell Westbrook has racked up. He hasn't done much off the court other than a fine here and there for cursing out at reporters or the occasional fan, which he has done 3 times in total, because he is certainly one of the more intense basketball players there are in the NBA. And as we all know, he doesn't like hecklers at all, and hecklers don't like him either. Even last season, he almost had an altercation where a fan poured popcorn on him after he sustained an ankle injury. And as you can see here, nigga was ready to start Malice at the Palace Part 2, but luckily he didn't get punished for what he was going to do to the guy that poured popcorn on him. But back to the technical fouls, yeah, he has a lot of them. 110 of them to be exact, and also 7 ejections. With all of these altercations added up, he owed the NBA $670,000 in total fines from his career so far. From one former Thunder player to another, now we have James Harden for our second team shooting guard spot. Now first, we gotta talk about his flopping addiction. Listen, James, can I call you James? Let's just go with James. You gotta realize it's a problem sooner or later. You had a 6-year stretch where you averaged 10 free throws or more a game. 1 year you almost had 12 free throws a game. Please stop flopping and please stop foul baiting. And, well, the NBA is going to try to make that stop, but let's just hope that's going to be the case. It makes the NBA worse to watch as more and more people are doing it every year. But other than the flopping addiction, he actually got fined for 1 time and only 1 time somehow, and it's for the most deplorable thing possible. It happened last season where he did everything in his power to remove himself from the Houston Rockets. Fought teammates, caused altercations, anything you can think of, which I found to be really, really gross. But when it comes to technical fouls and all the other stuff, he has been marked with 46 technical fouls over his 11-year NBA career, and all those fines racked up together has equaled up to $310,000. Also, if you consider his constant habit of going to strip clubs, you can imagine he's losing a lot more than that. At the second team All-Black Air Force squad for small forward, we have Jimmy Butler. We all know that the secret son of Michael Jordan would end up here due to his emphatic nature on the court. Now, he isn't known for being a troublemaker, but what puts him here is, well, the stories. For example, during his time with the Minnesota Timberwolves, he tried by any means necessary to try to unlock the true potential of Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. How did that go? Well, he beat both of them and the starters in a scrimmage game with the third string players. And more things to add is his suffocating defense, hard-working nature being rumored that he practices at 3:30 a.m. with the Miami Heat, 6 hours before the usual practice time. Then if you add the fact he was homeless at one point as a teenager, you can see how this man was basically born out the womb with Black Air Forces. The passion he shows for the game is the real reason why he is here, but it's in a very aggressive way. Now, while looking this up, I was wondering how often he got technical fouls and how much money he had to cough up. Well, Jimmy Butler has only been called for 34 technical fouls in 10 years of NBA play, which isn't even all that much. However, he's been in 2 fights in the NBA and has been ejected twice. Due to that, he had to pay the NBA $123,000 in fines, mainly coming from the fights, but at least he isn't a real nuisance on the court like a few people we'll talk about later. Now we're at the second team power forward spot, which belongs to Jay Crowder of the Phoenix Suns. Jay Crowder has the role of the enforcer of the team. Any bullshit that happens on the court goes through him, and due to that, he's usually pinned with a lot of altercations that happen in the game. Someone gets a little bit too physical with a teammate, you already know Jay Crowder is nearby and ready for some action. And due to that, he's been in 2 official fights in his NBA career, one against Elfrid Payton in the Knicks, and the other one where he got slapped by John Wall. For other offenses like ejections, he surprisingly only has 4 in his NBA career, but I guess the sum, that can seem like a very low number for a person who's played 9 years in the league. But as you know, we gotta mention the technical fouls and the fines that he's racked up over time. Jay Crowder, in 668 career games, has 46 technical fouls to his name and has already paid $170,000 in fines. It's safe to say being an enforcer of a team is pretty expensive. Now for our second team center spot, we have to talk about another infamous name before we get into the first team members, Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard, who is still currently competing for a championship with the Lakers for his 3rd time, has a very interesting history of stories that made him a very public name, but in a very negative manner. Like being the reason why Orlando fell apart before leaving them for ruin, basically, his shoddy relationships when he plays with other superstars in the league, and his relationship with his kid, and so on. But even disregarding that, he's still one of the more physical players in the league, and even though he averages the least amount of minutes out of everybody in this video we will talk about, he still has the 6th most amount of fouls in the NBA at 231 fouls. And even with the Lakers 2 years ago, barely averaging more minutes, he put himself at 4th place with 277. But I know what y'all are waiting for. Dwight Howard has a total of 105 technical fouls, 6 ejections, and a lot of physical altercations, which equaled up to $1.2 million in fines. Now we are finally here, the best of the best, the start of the all NBA Black Air Force first team selections. And out of all of these, this one should be an absolute no-brainer. First, at point guard, we have Patrick Beverley. A whole book can be written on the interesting moments we have seen from him, created from Patrick Beverley's antics. But to name a few, he had the beef with Russell Westbrook that ended up with Russ getting an injured meniscus in the Western Conference Finals last season. He pushed Chris Paul, which gave him a 1-game suspension going into next season, and the many times he's been fined for cursing out a fan or an official. But as we all know, it goes deeper than that. His attitude and aggressiveness on the court mimics defense from the 80s. But in today's game, that isn't really appreciated or liked, with that mouth of his that caused him to get 73 technical fouls and 11 ejections, which totaled to over $400,000 in fines, with probably more to come in his new chapter with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Rip Bozo. Now, I'm sure everybody knew this was coming. For our first team All-NBA Black Air Force squad at the shooting guard position, we have Marcus Smart. For the same reason that Patrick Beverley gets in trouble, Marcus Smart has many interesting stories for why he's on here. The infamous incident everybody can think of is the altercation he had in college with a fan when they faced Texas Tech that caused him to get suspended for 3 games. A recent event where he shoved Joel Embiid pretty hard, and the weirdest one of all, when he got in an altercation with J.R. Smith in a preseason game. Marcus Smart is a hothead on and off the court, especially in the locker room, but his reputation for it does not go without numbers, as he racked up 10 ejections over his whole career and 39 technical fouls, which has totaled for over $430,000 in fines. But with that new max extension that he just got, he can keep affording to have these altercations. But let's hope that's not the case though. As NBA fans, we all had to assume that one of the Morris twins would eventually end up here. And out of the 2 of them, the far worse one is here at the first team small forward position, Marcus Morris. He has become a whole lot more mainstream in the sphere of acting out recently with the Los Angeles Clippers when he showcased his very abrasive defensive style against Luka Doncic and actually being blamed for injuring him in the 2019 playoffs. In fact, he got 2 technical fouls and a whole ejection in that playoff series alone. But he is known for a whole lot more also, which includes a fight with Jay Crowder, who is also on this list, and this absolute gem of a clip on Justin Anderson. But overall, he has a total of 85 career technical fouls and 5 ejections, which equals up to $365,000 in fines. Now we are another well-known name when it comes to their on-court and even off-court antics. Draymond Green, the winner of the first team power forward position, and for very good reason. Some of those reasons include kicking Steven Adams in the groin, getting a technical foul and suspended in a very key game in the 2016 NBA Finals, his very interesting beef that he had with Kevin Durant, and his many remarks towards referees. There was even a time where he got a one-game suspension from the Warriors themselves for being a nuisance that cost him $150,000 in non-paid money. But even 9 years into his NBA career, he's actually top 20 when it comes to total technical fouls, which isn't a good list to end up on. But that should be a good enough gist for y'all to understand what we're exactly dealing with here. But in total, Draymond Green has been hit with 16 ejections and 145 technical fouls in all of his 9 years of NBA play. And guess what? It costed him over $889,000 in total fines. You know how they say leave the best for last? Well, here it is. The selection of the first team center spot, DeMarcus Cousins, one of the most hot-headed NBA players of possibly all time. And saying that might even be an understatement. We don't see much of Boogie nowadays due to his decline because of injuries, but he still finds a way to rack up technical fouls. Just last year alone, he got ejected twice and called for 6 technical fouls, but it doesn't end there. Over his whole career, he's had many stories of altercations on and off the court. Multiple scuffles with Patrick Beverley, threatening a social media reporter at one time, multiple suspensions due to his conduct on the team, and his list just goes on and on and on. But the worst part about this is the amount of money he has paid over his whole career for his actions. But first, the usual. In his whole career, he has been called for 109 technical fouls and ejected 10 times and suspended 6 times for conduct reasons. And it all comes together for a grand total of $1.1 million in fines from the NBA. Now, imagine if Boogie was still in his prime and still was playing heavy minutes right now. This total would be so much higher. Now, I just want to preface this again and say that this video was completely my opinion when it came down to the selections. If anything, this video was just made for fun to look back at all the batshit crazy things some of these players have done. I know I could have mentioned like a Montrezl Harrell for calling Luka a bitch-ass white boy, Malik Beasley fucking Scottie Pippen's wife and going to jail, and even something as small as Robin Lopez's hate of mascots. But just like every video, you know what I have to ask. Do you feel I missed out on anyone? Or I guess tell me some people that had made an impression on you for their antics in the NBA career. All responses will be appreciated in the comment section below, where I read all of them and respond to a good bit of them. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video and learned something new, as my vision for this channel is to inform and entertain. Again, like this video for more weekly basketball content. Check out my social medias for the inside life of Alvini and other channel news. Check out my Twitch where I stream weekly and have to go through shit like this all the time. It's unfair, and now you're saying other people. I hate niggas, bro. I hate niggas. And lastly, if you want to talk to your boy, there is always my Discord. Links in the description. But with all of that out of the way, this is your boy, Alvini Linguine, saying peace. And also try not to send this to any of the players that I mentioned. I kind of like this whole living thing.